What makes cult leaders so charismatic? What is something so special about their personalities that people just follow them blindly and reject things that they knew in favor of things that they are told by these leaders? It takes a certain type of personality to become a cult leader. And not to say a certain type of MBTI personality, but there are definitely a certain set of traits that are linked to cult leaders. And these traits somehow enable them to exert such influence on others. How do they do it? Especially the control over others as well. Now, before I get into this, I just want to say that not all people who have these traits will become cult leaders, of course, but just studying the commonalities between typical cult leaders can provide some insight into what their personalities are like, their mindset, and how they get this influence that they get. Also, there's no MBTI type that exclusively defines the personality type of a cult leader, but there are certain types that are more likely to become a cult leader than others, so I want to explore that. Number 1, cult leaders need to be charismatic and manipulative. So they possess this magnetic charm that kind of overwhelms and charms the people around them, sort of captivates people. And they have this great ability to persuade others using trust and loyalty to get other people to do what they want them to do. They need to be charismatic to get that devoted following. Number 2, they have narcissistic tendencies. So many, if not all, cult leaders exhibit narcissistic traits. They have an inflated sense of, self-importance, constantly need to be admired, and they lack empathy for others. Although they can appear to be empathetic, they really aren't. They believe they are special, unique, even divine. And this narcissism fuels their need for adoration, control, and influence over other people. Number 3, the trait that all cult leaders seem to have in common is the controlling trait and the authoritarian kind of approach. So they tend to kind of implement these strict hierarchy within their system, within their group, where they are in the position where they assert absolute control over their followers or their people in their group. They control various aspects of their lives, including their behaviors, their beliefs, their income, even personal relationships. They use tactics such as isolation, fear, and even psychological coercion to maintain that dominance over others. Number 4, a trait that they all have in common as well is that they are exploitive and opportunistic, and this is key. So not only do they exploit their followers financially, emotionally, physically even, they demand from their followers excessive labor, funding, and they really leave their followers in this very vulnerable state where they don't have any sort of outside help. They don't have anywhere to turn to except for the cult leader. This just further cements their control over that person or group of people. Number 5, their grandiose vision and delusions. So cult leaders always tend to have these grandiose visions, which is part of their mantra of why they should be followed by these people, supposedly promising their followers this kind of utopian opportunity if you follow them or go with them. They also claim to have excessive knowledge or almost divine knowledge about things. They need to be exploitive and opportunistic trait of cult leaders. This means they basically thrive on the vulnerability of their followers. The fact that their followers have nothing to call their own, no one in their lives other than the cult that they're in, and the dependency these poor followers have on the cult leader. Now, usually these people would come to the cult leader initially for help. Perhaps they were going through something, and this cult leader was disguised as a mental health professional or someone who they felt could give them some sort of insight into their lives, improve their lives in some way, whether it be through religion, through psychological help, and so on. And the cult leaders take advantage of these vulnerable people. They see an opportunity to use them and abuse them. And they make their followers believe that they have these kind of insights and visions that other people can't possibly have. And this further just shows their superiority above others. Sort of the righteousness of their cause. The suffering has a purpose, a higher meaning. Trait number 6 for cult leaders is isolation and separation of their followers from others. This is Cult Leader 101, taking their followers, isolating them from other people, creating an environment where they will not interact with people outside of the cult. And usually this is done by the followers themselves, that the followers themselves choose to cut themselves off from their family, from their friends, people who are not from the cult, and stick with the people who are from the cult. So the cult leader would prohibit contact with non-members, for example, which reduces the kind of external influences from other people. This will also encourage the followers to have less of a perspective other than the people within their group. They will not be hearing counter arguments to things. They'll not be having that critical thinking that they normally would from other people that love and care about them. And this creates that feeds into that kind of dependency on the cult leader, how the cult leader then becomes so important, and you just need to keep doing what they say in order to be reinforced, to reach that higher spiritual awakening or whatever it is that the cult leader is promising. Usually what they are promising is something very intangible and something very subjective. Lastly, number 7, the manipulation of belief systems. They create an us versus them sort of reality with their followers, and they distort the reality of their followers in order to kind of emphasize that commitment and loyalty to them, the leader, the cult leader. Typically, they'd use guilt, fear, or shame to encourage the followers to continue to listen to the cult leader, keep them in line, and ensure that their commitment is strong. This manipulation kind of discourages people to question or challenge the authority of the leader. When it comes to MBTI, personality types such as ENTJ and ENFJ have shown that they could be associated with leadership roles that kind of correlate with cult leader, but it's rare and they're very unhealthy.